as I say, whatever we're in, whatever kind of manufacturing process you have in your own life, what I'd say is this. If you want to know the future, so people often say to me, so what's the future of my factory? What's the future of this particular process? And what I'd say is, can I start with you? Because actually, in my experience, the changes that we are being confronted by in our personal lives to do with digital tools, mobile and the rest, are being followed by changes in corporate life, manufacturing, services, and the rest. So let's go on a journey here, and you'll see what I mean. So the first thing is to do with the perception of time. The web has made us incredibly impatient as individuals. In the United States at the moment, according to Google and many others who are watching online behavior, it takes only 5 seconds on your website to lose 90% of your business. Let me say that again. 5 seconds to lose up to 90% of your sales. You see, how can that be, Patrick? I'll tell you why. You see, we had the session, I think it was on Tuesday, about getting the website sorted, and you must, but it's more than that. It's to do with speed, the speed at which people find the right things. It's not just a question of having your search terms right. If most of your customers come into your site on a mobile device these days, and the average time for someone to type in something like Britney Spears' birth date or something like that, or let's say a spare part from a piece of machinery, the average time that people will spend for a web page to load before they lose the will to live is about, well, it's about 3.5 seconds. Okay. So in 3 seconds, I do this with a show of hands many times in big events. I did it in Vilnius just last week. I had 800 marketing executives. I asked them a simple question: how long does it take you to press the back button on a browser? And 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. 70% of them have said goodbye. They're already irritated. After 4 seconds, 80% have lost the will to live, and after 5 seconds, 90% of them have terminated the business relationship where they will never go back to that website. They're back to Google search, they've gone somewhere else. So every second really matters. Why am I saying this? It's not just the website. This is about the whole of life. It's a 5-second test, 5 seconds to answer the phone, 5 seconds to answer an email. What? To answer an email? Come on, Patrick. Okay, 5 seconds to answer the WhatsApp message. You say, well, I can't live like that. Actually, I'm just saying, in our private lives, we already are. In the private lives of your clients, they already are. It's just that in manufacturing, we kind of think we're in a different kind of bubble, but we're not. So suppose my wife and I are frustrated because our electricity company has overcharged us yet again. So what do? We pick up the phone and we get through to some stupid message, a pre-recorded message, which takes 60 seconds. And then we have to press buttons. Press 1 for accounts, press 2 for customer services. I know that most of you, like me, get really cross about that. You want to kill the people who put the systems in, because it is so irritating, right? Because it wastes more than 5 seconds. More than 5 seconds, that's like a million years. So pressing buttons is really annoying. I'm just saying, every second counts. The speed at which the phone is answered, the speed at which you're put through, the speed at which the web processing engine accepts the payment and confirms that the deal has been done. It's why WhatsApp is so important as a medium for the future in doing the deals. I often say to people, what kind of relationship do you have with your clients? And they say, well, what do you mean? I say, okay, well, you're either family or business. And they still don't get it. I said, listen, if you want to do a deal with someone in the Middle East and you're a New Mexico manufacturer, forget it unless you're in a WhatsApp relationship. Why? Because email is just about business. And who bothers with email these days? It's the WhatsApp. In the WhatsApp, and the client shows you, the photograph of their 1-year-old child's birthday party yesterday. On the WhatsApp, they're showing their score on the golf course. On WhatsApp, they're sending you a video greeting because they're in a bar with another colleague who you knew and you met last time you were in Dubai. WhatsApp is in if you're in a WhatsApp relationship in many parts of the world, you're part of the family. And it's all about, what is that biggest word I've said that drives the future? It's emotion. And what's linked to emotion? Trust. And what's trust about? It's about relationship. It's about belonging. It's about looking the person in the eye and believing that that person is really going to deliver on their promise. So I'm just saying there are simple things that we can learn from our personal lives, which are the secrets to creating magic in our manufacturing lives. And the wonderful thing is that most of these things cost virtually nothing, okay? They're part of the digital world, and they're part of, I would call 5.0. It's humanizing what we've just been investing in, say, all this lean automated stuff, but it's putting a human element onto it. Again, in our personal lives, we expect a product to arrive within 24 hours or less with Amazon. And that's what people are wanting now from you as a manufacturer, which is another reason for reshoring. You can't order a product from China that's going to be delivered 9 a.m. tomorrow. Suppose something goes wrong with one of your important pieces of manufacturing equipment. You want someone on a video call within 20 minutes who can look at the problem on the video call, make a diagnosis, and within 6 hours, the spare part has arrived and you can just plug it in and go. We're thinking now, I mean, many of us on this call are already experiencing 1 hour delivery times for, let's say, groceries or some particular product from Apple or something like that. We're expecting to track that product, to be able to drive home and to be able to see the intersection between our vehicle and the delivery van and screech to a halt outside our house at the exact moment. Oh, hi. And we can see these people travel around. That's what we expect in our private lives. That's the future of manufacturing in our public lives. There is nothing less that we will settle for. This is what our normal is. As I say, some of it's expensive to do. A lot of it really is not. Okay, again, on virtual working. Yes, we've made huge jumps in this area, which has made us hyper efficient in some ways, but also there's an issue. We've learned in our personal lives that actually seeing family is really important. I'm actually doing this video call from a house which we rented on Airbnb for the last week, so that 18 members of our family could celebrate a little bit of normal life after COVID. Because actually video calls, they don't do it for us. They're fine, but it's not the same as breathing the same air. Now listen, if that's true in family, and family is all about emotion and trust, then my goodness me, it has to be even more true when it's talking about our most important relationships. I would say this, in the next 6 months, those that meet will thrive and those that don't will just survive. It's as simple as that. And whatever the restrictions are on travel to other countries, if that's where your important deals are, we're going to have to get on the plane and go. It's almost impossible to deliver a deal with a new client that you've never met before without eating food and if you're in Russia, drinking the vodka, or whatever, or in China, drinking the rice vodka or whatever it is. It's just important, building relationships. It's humanizing all this wonderful stuff that we've been doing for so long. Because innovation does not happen by pressing the button. It really doesn't. Even Apple's discovered that. They basically have summoned people back into the workplace. They said, we've discovered that we can manage amazingly well during lockdown, but we can't think, we can't innovate, and we can't change. That's pretty fundamental. We need to meet. So this is part of the future. It's going to be really important over the next 6 to 18 months. Now, another part of our personal lives that is a lesson for the future of manufacturing is, of course, mobile. And we've talked about that endlessly, of course, in these kind of events each year. But this is going up another level altogether. So I know that 80% at least who are on this call right now are already using mobile devices to monitor your heart rate, your blood pressure, your fitness, how far you walked yesterday. Many of you are doing it through iWatches or whatever the product is. It doesn't matter, Fitbit, but this is part of your normal life, that you have a stream of consciousness that enters you about everything. And we're talking about a 250 million wearable devices by 2023, a 70 billion market. And what does that mean for manufacturing? It means everything. It means that mobile is everything. It means that everything will be on an app. Everything. It means your clients want to see their products on the app. They want to be able to see their products being developed and manufactured. And why shouldn't they? It costs nothing to do. It's almost nothing to do. Cameras cost almost nothing. The apps are there. The Wi-Fi is there. It's just a question of installing this stuff. And straight away, we're involving humanity. We are creating an emotional connection between our client and what's going on inside your factory. Now, despite all of this, many trends are changing more slowly than people think. And I often think about, 20 years old, 20 years ago, maybe a guy, he was hit by a car and he's been unconscious for the last 20 years in intensive care, and then comes around and he asks for you by name and says, oh, hi, I've been asleep for 20 years. I've lost 20 years. What have I missed? And I wonder how long you think it would take to bring him up to date. By the time you talked about, I don't know, a Gulf War, and he'd say, oh, another one. And you say, well, we've had a president or two. Yeah, we always do. And we had a few wobbles on the stock market. And we had, oh, yes, you've probably had an economic crash. But how long would it really take for you to update him on all the changes in manufacturing in the last 20 years? My guess is not as long as you might think. Bank branches are basically still here. We thought they would have been gone by now. Music sounds much the same. My children are still listening to the Rolling Stones or Elton John or all kinds of people. Fashions. It's very difficult to tell from a photograph at a conference these days what the date of that conference was. Oh, that was the 2005 event, because people were wearing different things. Fashions, men and women, have stayed remarkably the same globally. Food is the same in the supermarkets. Trucks look the same. Containers are certainly the same. Planes are almost identical. Hotels, experience, homes, furniture is very similar. So we can easily get swept away and think, oh, the whole world's changing. And it isn't. And there's a parallel in manufacturing as well. I'm not going to overhype change in manufacturing. There's a lot of manufacturing that will remain relatively the same. The electroplating we just heard about, the process of electroplating has been known about for over 100 years. That physics, the chemistry behind, the electrolysis behind electroplating will remain the same. The mechanism of doing it, or the machines of dipping and all the rest of it, and monitoring it and quality control will of course change, but not maybe as dramatically as in some other sectors. Again, here's another example where we need a reality check. If I was to ask for a show of hands on this video call to find out how many people have a 3D TV at home, the answer would be effectively zero. And if there is, it would need to be put in a museum. Why? You can't buy a 3D TV anymore. Why? Because actually, the most important word of the future is emotion, and there is no real emotional connection. So there is not a single TV manufacturer anywhere in the world today that will deliver to you a 3D TV. It's finished, toast. So it's easy to get swept along with, oh yes, every factory is going to have this. It's not. We need to be very careful before we overdo it on some of the predictions here. Here's another one in people's homes. Yes, Facebook are announcing even more investment into augmented reality and predicting we'll all wear augmented reality headsets and have virtual lives. Well, maybe yes, but maybe no. I suspect that most people won't. Most people on this call, I suspect, are not particularly interested in wearing one of these kinds of things for a day or even an hour, unless they're playing computer games. And as for printing things in your home, you know what? I've had a 3D printer for over a decade now, and I'm bored with printing toys. I want to print parts for people now. That's another story, because I'm a physician in my first training. And the truth is about robotics. Most robots in the world are working in only one sector, which is car manufacturing, which has been the case for the last 20 years. And from around 2000 right through to 2015 or so, the number of robots in factories globally was increasing by only about 10%, 12% a year. Tiny compared to the Internet of Things, big data, the cloud, all of that, tiny. So let's be careful that we focus on what really matters for your particular factory, wherever you are, rather than getting swept away by some dazzling idea about something that's going to change the whole of everything, when it probably isn't. Now, here is a technology which really is here. It's working well, it's mature, it's very exciting, and will continue to mature. And that is the ability to visualize physical objects in front of other physical objects using a virtual device. Fascinating. The ability to design an entire factory process using virtual screens without having to build a single thing. Amazing. Very, very exciting. And we're seeing a lot of this kind of technology in construction of factories now. But again, you may not be the largest company in New Mexico. And it's true, as we heard, that 84% of all exports from this state are coming from small companies. So we need a reality check and think about the things which will really make a difference in your own company that have a fantastic payback. And yes, I would say prototyping is something that works very well, even for the smallest companies. The ability to try things out, the ability to render a particular product in a sophisticated machine. You don't even need to own the machine. You can design it, send it to a 3D production unit, and within a couple of hours, it'll be back with you. The ability for dentists, for instance, to be able to take a cast and in a small factory, maybe less than 20 miles away, to have beautifully created, perfect replacement teeth, which could be back in the client's mouth by later on that day. Astonishing, wonderful, life-changing. But it's also true that while we have this 85% of manufacturers being relatively small in New Mexico, there is this irresistible force to go for scale. And the reason is this, that the world is too small now for more than 5 large auto companies globally, more than 2 airline manufacturers, maybe 3, more than 2 mobile phone operating systems. There just aren't enough people on the earth to make it worthwhile. And even the 2 mobile operating systems we have are both hackable. So there's a lot of effort to keep these things running. Same with computer operating systems. The world is too small for more than 10 large pharma companies. We've seen this with COVID. You have thousands and thousands of small companies doing the innovation, and then they go to scale through large pharma. And that's how we've tackled vaccines. And of course, when you're thinking about multi-product assembly lines where you can shoot down 4 or 5 different sizes of books or 4 or 5 different models of cars all on the same line, this requires heroic investment. But the good news is this: if you are one of those smaller companies in New Mexico, there is going to be a boom in demand for niche manufacturers who are providing specialist support for the largest customers with total commitment to customization. And the key there is a lesson we can learn from Hollywood. It's, assembling a huge team to build a fantastic movie, which comprises maybe of 50 or 60 or 70 companies, all of whom are put together at the speed of light. They're welded together into one group with shared data, shared systems, common purpose, common vision, and they become a virtual film giant. And we're going to hear a lot more about virtual factories. I don't mean producing virtual parts. I mean, in the olden days, the company would have had all their supply chains organized. They would have owned this and owned that and the other. Now, and then of course they fragmented it and it became quite difficult to control. These companies are going to want to share data with you. They want to see inside your factory. They want to be able to watch physically, or certainly on monitoring, every single component coming out. They can see the products being loaded onto the pallets. They can see them as if they were part of their own factory on their own site. The fact that you're 50 miles or 500 miles away doesn't matter. The fact that you don't share any equity or any governance doesn't matter. You're part of the same organism. This is the next step on from just the Internet of Things, big data and things. It's stitching it all together. And the other thing I'd say is this: while we heard a lot about big data, the truth is, as I've always said, the real money is in the little data. That's where the value is. And it's the small fragments of data which create the greatest value for your clients, your customers, and for you too. Especially when it comes to things like predicting failure, automatic repairs, Infosys is a client of mine. They've managed to put sensors on oil rigs, for instance, and they can now predict fairly accurately which oil rig is going to blow up and what part of it is. They don't necessarily know why, but they know what part of it will, just by data association, analysis, and recognizing patterns, the machine recognizing patterns. Now, of course, with all of this, there's a risk, and I'm so pleased we had a whole session on cybersecurity, and I don't want to rehearse all of that, except to say, whatever you think your commitment should be to cybersecurity, increase it by 50%. Because in my experience, most companies who are attacked think they've got robust systems, and they've taken all kinds of protections, but they've still got hit. Because there are still flaws in their thinking. Remember what I said about institutional blindness. It's a bit like, getting the meal right in the kitchen, but still not training the waiter to use their eyes. It's easy to be vulnerable here. So take very carefully every lesson. If you missed that side position, I would suggest you go back and look at it carefully. And the most important thing of all is to say this. If you had a ransomware attack tomorrow, if you were locked out of every single desktop and portable device that you own, and held to ransom, what would you do to recover? How would you do that? That is your greatest defense of all, because once you've done that, you can sleep at night. Of course, you want to prevent the attack, but you must have a contingency in